because it takes some time, when you've got 33 years where you're, thinking you're going one direction, and all of a sudden now you gotta rewrite things. So, but I think it's very, very, very important. And I just put a post on this the other day. Most people will spend more time trying to figure out what they're going to do on their summer vacation than what they will do with their life plan. And I think, I'm a strong person in personal development and mental well-being. And there's no excuse other than the fact that everybody has become comfortable being busy, doing nothing, scrolling on our social media, watching TV. And, is that really building a legacy? Is that really giving you, that time can be spent in personal development. That time can be building relationships. Because that was the biggest thing that I learned with my mom and dad passing. Because I was doing it, I didn't realize it, but the jealousy that my siblings had towards me was based on the fact that I had a relationship with my parents. When I was the youngest of six, and so the economics were a little bit different too. That's something you gotta understand. So I was able to go to Germany with them because my mom, like I said, she was into genealogy. My brother happened to be stationed over there, and so we went tomb hopping over in Germany, and I was the only one that got to go. So of course, I was the spoiled one, but it's pretty hard to leave a 12-year-old home for 2 weeks and think they're going to survive. Well, but true. Either way, with that, I developed a relationship with my parents because when I moved out, I went to a little resort town, and my mom and dad, they hadn't been off the farm. I mean, I think we went on 1 or 2 vacations. In fact, I remember 2 vacations. One was the Faces down at Mount Rushmore, because South Dakota is just, a couple hours away. And the other one was to Germany. Other than that, our summers were spent in the field. We were farmers, And so once in a while we would go to a little Medora, the little resort town that I was working on. But my gosh, when I graduated, my mom and dad were down there like 7, 8, like every other weekend they were there. And I was like, good grief, are you following me or what? But at the same time, I realized, they had children in the house for like 48 years, so they, one, the empty nest was hard for them. And 2, it was fun and they enjoyed it. But the more, I embraced them. I wanted them to be around me. And when I moved away for 20 years, if I didn't call my mom 2 to 3 times a week back before pre-plans, it was a budget in our income, $200 to $300 for phone bills because I called my mom regularly. And, if I had a question, I called and I asked her, and I honed in, and I really made that relationship. And because I did that, and my parents came out to visit us, and, we came up here, the kids stayed, and, I was very intentional about my children spending a couple of weeks every year with my mom and dad so that they got to visit the farm and they got to experience them. And, mom and dad are raising your kids, you drop them off up there for 2 weeks, and it's like, that's their grandma time. They're experiencing, being with their grandmother, but that jealousy, it didn't make sense at the time. But now as I step back and I, have a clearer picture of everything, I realized that they never took the time to develop those relationships. And part of it too was I was a little bit more, I think when you have children, there's always one pea that's a little bit more like you when you're in the pod. And my mom and I were 2 peas in a pod. And so many people have said, you're so much like your mom. And I'm like, yep, I am. So, those relationships are so, so important because that is what's going to drive you in the long run is, those relationships. And, you're not going to build a relationship with your loved ones if you are constantly looking at social media or, tuned into the TV, because those kids, they're not going to remember you. They're going to remember that you sat in front of the TV, and they're going to remember you, scrolling through your phone, which I think we've all gotten a bad habit of doing.
Yeah, that's very true. So often, when I'm out, maybe at a restaurant or at a coffee shop, and I look around and you have so many people that could be interacting, Yet you'll have families sitting at the table and their noses, every nose is in a phone, and it's like, why are you not having conversations with each other? And sometimes they're even texting each other at the very table, that they're all sitting together having a text conversation instead of a verbal one, which blows my mind. But that's that's one of the
That's
things
another
that
story.
our
That's another
generation,
podcast.
our generation probably should step away from that and have a little more real time, Sunday dinner around the table, that kind of a thing, not TV trays all over the house.
Well, and even, I commend Chick-fil-A. I've always watched that, kind of always use them as a mentor, doing business and everything. They've just modeled things so well. And I, honor them for what they're doing. Is, you can actually put your phone in the box while you're eating, to ensure that, you aren't scrolling and that you are building that relationship. So I think I wish more people would take the lead of that. And we have gotten even too where everybody has to put their phone, like, especially if we go out to eat. We've gotten to where we've, put your phone face down and, nobody can touch it. So, and sometimes you got to set those boundaries so that you can build those relationships. So I was at a basketball game, and I turned around and there was about 10, 12 kids there, and every one of them had their head down and their thumbs were just moving like crazy. And I thought, when I was sitting on those bleachers, there was never even a thought of that happening. We were, bumping each other around or laughing or, braiding hair or, doing, interacting. But I mean, they were quiet because I thought, I was like, wow, that's kind of a quiet area. And I just kind of looked around and I was like, they're not even talking to each other. That is crazy.
At a ball game.
At a ball game. Yep.
What's wrong with watching the game?
Yep. So
when you were starting your business, were there particular hurdles that you had to overcome when building that out?
Well, I've actually built 4 different businesses from the ground up. First, I had a flower shop in Breckenridge, Colorado, and that was a lot of struggle because I had a degree in flower shop and greenhouse management from NDSU Botano. And, you kind of think, well, they've prepared me, right? I've paid this money, so I'm going to know how to do this. And like, I did not have any assets in my back pocket to be able to do what I was trying to do. And it was very frustrating because at the time, Colorado didn't have any flower shop associations for the state level. So, I really couldn't, I ended up going to the Small Business Administration, and, they kind of helped. I got in touch with the SCORE member and helped me going. And so, that was a big struggle. If you don't know how to start things or where to get it, but nowadays, and that was 30 years ago. Nowadays with the internet, you can definitely Google and find things a lot easier and a lot quicker. My daughter was down the other day, and she's got a big project that she's handing in, and she's actually having to hand in a business plan for her marketing class, and just kind of, going through, and I was like, well, how are you going to do this? Or what do and she's like, oh, internet, Google, Google it. So I think any business can have struggles, but it's all how diverse you are. And, I have a lot of tenacity, so I usually go at things until I get the answer. And so, I research until I find what I need. But I think everybody, you can make it as difficult as you want. And so my big thing is lean into people, find a mentor that is doing what you want to do, and ask them to guide you, because that will save you a lot of time, definitely.
Yeah, those are some valuable resources. SCORE, Small Business Administration, and having mentors. Those are 3 things that I recommend to look into.
Yep.
Would you say that your tenacity is your greatest character strength, or do you think that there's another that you would?
I think my tenacity gets me sometimes, but it's probably a good character trait to have. I didn't realize it, but I'm actually a very good networker. I don't have a problem talking to people. I reach out. The last business, well, not the last, but my 3rd business that I built was a restaurant, and we're in the oil boom. And so, we did anywhere from $850 to $1 million for 7 years, just selling milkshakes and flipping burgers, which is kind of unheard of in the food and beverage industry, not having alcohol in there. But we in that 7 years, I probably spent a total of about $2,000 in marketing because it was word of mouth. We had a great product. We ground our own meat and we added our own seasoning. And it's funny because we just closed that down about a year ago. And now the oil boom is kind of picking up here in North Dakota. And it's funny the number of phone calls I get because these guys kept our restaurant number in their phones and they're calling asking for burgers. And we're closed, so it was I had my phone number, my cell phone listed there, and so a lot of people have reached out trying to buy burgers, and we're no longer in business. But when you have a great product, that's something that's very, very important. And being able to build relationships, and that's what I did with a lot of the guys, and that's why they remember me. I always did table touches, even though we were, kind of a divey burger joint. I always checked on everybody, and we encouraged the waitresses to, find out, because these guys were coming and leaving their families, and we made sure they didn't give them their phone numbers, but they, just to be nice to them and engage and find out how their day is. And the guys really appreciated that. They came back to us because they knew it was kind of a family, or it was a family away from their home. And I'd always kind of joke when people would be on there. We had a lot of guys that Skyped and FaceTimed their family. And I'd always be like, no, you can't be on your phone while you guys are eating. We got to have that conversation. And they're like, but this is my family. And, so I'd be waving in the background and photobombing them and getting to know the kids and stuff. So just really even though it was just a burger joint, we still took the time to engage in our clientele, and they remembered us, and they served us well. They came back time and time again.
That's good. Now, what would you say your greatest character weakness would be then?
Oh, my teenagers would probably say I'm too mean. My youngest daughter came home from when she came into high school, and she goes, well, Mom, she goes, you don't have to worry about me dating. And I said, what do you mean? She goes, all the boys are scared of you. They'll never ask me out. And I was like, yes, I finally got it right on the last one. So I think probably my weakness is, I get to, I'm a big thinker. And so, I'm always thinking of, I see something and I want to teach people how to do things. And I could see even in my girls' relationships that, when they do something, I'm like, oh, wow, that's cool. But did you think of this? And so that's one of the character traits that I'm trying to not have as strong, and just appreciate what they're doing, and not always trying to teach them how they could do it. And I'm never saying that they could do it better. It's just my mom was a teacher. And so I've got that eye of, when I see something, I'm a problem solver. So, if you talk to me and you got a problem, we're going to figure out how we can solve it for you. And that's probably not always a good character trait to have.
I guess good in the right setting.
Right.
So where do you get your best ideas? Do you have a particular place you like to go to when you're brainstorming to come up with different thoughts?
I am gifted with the sixth sense. So there's just things that I feel very strong on, and I know it's the right thing. And I've always, tuned into my instincts. I'm right brain, so I'm very creative. Like I said, I used to have the flower shop. I'm very artistic. And so, in my element, I'm very right brained, and to me, I don't see it as a talent. It's just something that I do. But I do know that it is a talent that I have. And and I garden a lot too. So, and I'm kind of artistic and getting the flowers and everything together. So I guess overall, that's probably, my artistic is recharge as I go out into nature and really listen to nature and take notes from them.
That's a good place. Yeah, I like nature as well. So I can certainly relate with that. So in winding up, I have a final question for you. It's kind of a trivia question, if you will. Okay. To tell us something about you that most people don't know. Kind of that trivia thing there.
A lot of people don't know that I actually